These are the Virtual HiFi Vipers. These are tiny little powerhouse speakers that sound almost as large and full range as my giant Icon 12s. So each Viper houses a Dayton Audio, a peak 150mm carbon fiber true subwoofer for the mid-range driver. There are also two 180mm Dayton a peak carbon fiber passive radiators for that added oomph. This is in a sealed cabinet. The cabinet has been 3D printed. They take 120 hours to print. They are stunning. The inside has 3D printed bracing, right? It has mechanical bracing for these powerful drivers. And this allows these speakers to get way low and deep in the bass. And not only are they way low and deep, they put out some power into this 13x18 space. So much so, I would never need a subwoofer in this room with them. But there's a catch with these speakers. So let me tell you all about these, what makes them sing, why they are so cool, and why they may or may not be for you. Let's check out the Virtual HiFi Vipers. All right, everybody, welcome back. I'm excited for this review because it's a product that is super unique. You guys know I love unique, and I sometimes seek out the unique and try to bring it in here to share what the product is like with all of you. So today it's the Vipers. Now, these are made by a company, Virtual HiFi, in Poland. These come from Poland. Now, Virtual HiFi started as a YouTube channel just like this one, where he would do sound demos with super high quality microphones. I remember seeing Virtual HiFi's channel and watching the Qualio IQ sound demos when I was ready to get those in a while back. By the way, I do have some of the new IQ 30s that are about to be delivered here in the next couple of days. That review soon. But these speakers here, the Vipers, they're like mini Qualio IQs, but the sound, there's nothing mini or Munchkin about the sound of these. They're still blowing my mind. I have them in now. I was listening to some beautiful Christmas music this morning as I was setting up the room, and I just kept shaking my head in disbelief. So these speakers, first of all, are works of art, in my opinion. Some may see them and say, ooh, those are weird looking. And some may see those and say, wow, those are pretty cool. Now they come in white, black, yellow. I think mine is like a beige. It kind of looks like buttered popcorn in a way. These were demo review samples that were sent to me. And, you know, I didn't have a pick of color, but I think this beige color looks pretty nice. And again, unique. You usually don't see this color in a speaker. But when they came in, I was amazed when I pulled each speaker out of the box. And then I pulled out a little case. And inside of this case housed the Mundorf AMT dipole tweeter that sits up top. And this tweeter was encased in a 3D printed housing, which easily screwed up to the top of the speaker and plugged in its plug with an RCA type of cable. Also in the box were 3D printed feet. Now, I would think that these 3D printed feet would be all hard and plasticky, but they're not. They're super unique, and I really like these feet. You screw in the feet, you screw in the tweeter up top, and away you go, you're in business. The back of the speaker has a stainless steel plate that says Virtual HiFi Viper. You have WBT speaker connectors that are super high quality. You'll also see a connector for a subwoofer because these speakers house an 80 hertz kind of filter that rolls off the bass from the speaker and then sends it to the sub, making subwoofer integration easier. Now in this room, 13x18, I don't need a sub. I would never need a sub with these speakers. They put out about 80% of the bass that my big Icon 12s do, my big $25,000 Icon 12s. They put out more bass than the Pure Audio Project Duet 15s. They are tremendous in the bass performance. And I'm not just talking quantity, I'm talking quality. This is one of those where you're getting big bass boom, but it's clean. It's pretty tight. These are very, very precise speakers, but they're also as musical as all get out. Now, when I set these up, I tried these with various amplifiers. I tried these with a Heaven 11 Billy Mark III because it seems like a really good match. And before we get into really good matches with these, I will say there is a catch to these speakers. Not everyone's going to be able to power these. Now, these are something like 82, 83 dB efficient. They are 4 ohms, so they're going to need some power. The manufacturer recommends 200 watts of Class AB or Class D power, and they tell you right on the Virtual HiFi website, these are not meant for tubes. These are not meant for low Class A amps, low power Class A amps, and they are not meant for huge rooms unless you put a sub or two with them. And again, in this space, 13 by 18, they are perfecto in size. But I first tried running them with a Heaven 11 Billy Mark III. It is a Class D powerhouse. It's very musical. I have the Ice Power version, which is the warmer, more musical version of the amp. I started with that because I thought price-wise it would make for a really good match. The speakers come in at $5,000, again, made in Poland. And the Heaven 11 Billy, I think the model I have is around $3,300, has the premium DAC built in and the Class D powerful amp. So I put those in and I ran the Eversolo TH streamer to the Billy, and I used the built-in DAC of the Billy, which is quite good. And it was sounding... My first opinion was, wow, this sounds different from my Icon 12s that I just had in, but it's a rich kind of open sound that is focusing on holographic imaging. And I was hearing a lot of this holographic spatial kind of thing with the instruments, with voices coming dead center and sounding really, really nice and big, and sometimes a little bit chesty, but ultra real. When I wanted to turn it up super loud, the Billy was starting to run out of steam. So I moved in the Vinshine Audio / Kinky Studios Dazzle, which would put an insane amount of power to these speakers, almost 500 watts per channel going into these speakers with the Dazzle. And boom, there goes the dynamite. These munchkins turned into full range, big scale sound right here in this room. And I'm talking full range, big scale sound. They didn't quite reach the scale and size of soundstage and height and depth of my Primo Icon 12s here, but they were 80% there. They sounded absolutely huge in this space. But these are remarkable because they will fit into a small space, a medium space. They're not overpowering in looks, in size, so you can place them anywhere. You can place them on stands out into the room. You can place them on a computer desk if you want an amazing near-field audiophile experience. These are very versatile as to how you want to run them. You're just going to need a powerful amp to do so. I also tried them with the Enlium Amp 54R, which is a magical beast of an amp, but it only puts out 100 watts per channel. It's a Class AB. Sounded amazing at low and mid volumes, but if I wanted to tear down the house with a dance party, it also ran out of steam. So you do need some power for these speakers, and the more power you feed them, the bigger the smile on your face is going to be. I settled using the Dazzle with these because they were a perfect match. Now the Dazzle is an $8,500 US dollar integrated all analog Class AB high power amplifier. The Vipers are $5,000 speakers. This setup makes for a really good match. I ended up using the Eversolo T8 and the new Eversolo Z10 DAC for most of my listening with these speakers. So once I had everything set up, I put them on stands, I set them up in the room, I took the time to set them up just right for this space. They like to be set a little bit wider apart than most bookshelves and kind of towed in right to your ears. That is where I was getting the most powerful sound, the most infectious sound, the best imaging, performance, the widest sound stage. Now, let me go on here. I whipped up my title playlist, as I often do, and I hit shuffle. And the first song that popped up was from Diana Krall's Live in Paris, I Love Being Here With You. Now, I like this track because it's live. You hear the audience getting into it. It's energetic. The band seems like they're having a lot of fun. And, I also have this on vinyl, but I was streaming it from Tidal. And I just couldn't believe the dynamics, the punch, the energy. But at the same time, they had enough bass presence down below, plenty of it, but they had enough in that mid bass area so they were never lean or dry sounding. They were a little bit juicy at times, and they were oh so musical. But sometimes you trade off, when you have a musical speaker, sometimes you trade off other things such as imaging performance and things such of that nature. If you have a speaker that's too warm, it kind of muddies up that area where you're getting the instrument separation so cleanly and nicely. Now with these, due to the fact that the Mundorf AMT tweeter, which is dipole, means sound comes from the front and the back, this tweeter is the magic star of this show along with that subwoofer, because it brings just enough of that upper energy into your room, into space, into the air. But it's not harsh, it's not hard, it's actually a little bit, I would say, smooth. But at the same time, it's bringing forth immense details into the soundstage. These, I will say, are some of the best imaging speakers, some of the most holographic with the right music that I've heard in a long, long, long time. And by far, every other speaker that I've heard that matches or exceeds this in these areas costs a heck of a lot more money. And in that imaging, the imaging was just so beautiful with the Vipers. So once I had a few days with them, I was like blown away by what I was hearing. I took them out, and I have other speakers here. I have some Canton speakers that are starter speakers. There are a couple thousand starter audiophile speakers, I should say. A couple thousand. I put those in, and they sounded beautiful as well, but the scale was smaller. There was a little more detail from the treble, a little, they were just almost as open, but I was missing the scale of the Vipers. I then put in some $10,000 T+A Talus R330s, which I've really been enjoying. Now, these Talus R330s are pure audiophile kind of speakers. They excel in detail retrieval. They excel in airiness. They don't have a thick mid-range. They have a clean mid-range. If there's a sound in a recording, you're going to hear it with the Talus R330s. Just for comparison, I threw on I'm in the Mood for Love by Jacinta. I'm probably not saying that right. Beautiful album, beautiful recording. And there's a part where she stops singing and it goes into an instrumental. And with the Talus, I hear these guys in the background who are playing, jamming out, making noises like, yeah. And I never really heard that. I've heard them before, but not like this, not like with the Talus. I was hearing everything in that studio like I was a fly on the wall, but I wasn't getting any thickness in the mid-range. It was stunning to behold if you're a detail person and you love hearing all of that with a richness and wide open soundstage. I went back to the Vipers to see if I could hear those guys jamming out and making little remarks, which almost sounds like they weren't meant to be on the recording. Now I knew what I was listening for, so I heard them, but they were not as exposed. So the T+A at 10K is retrieving more detail, but the Vipers have a little more energy in the mids due to the fact that it is a true little subwoofer, carbon subwoofer, right there pumping out the mid-range, and it has the reinforcements from two of those carbon passive radiators. It had a little less shine than the 10K speakers up top, but it had a little more oomph in the mid-range, making them a more musical speaker. But again, due to the way the tweeter here is implemented, everything was coming out into the room in such a beautiful way. I became addicted to these speakers. I wrote Virtual HiFi. I said, thanks for sending these. These are quite amazing. Then he comes back and he says, well, I have another speaker to send you called the Cobra, that if you want to review it, you're welcome to. The Cobra is like a larger, more powerful version of the Viper. So I have no doubt that the Cobras would reach the scales, the heights, the largeness, the bigness of the Icon 12s. Those look like crazy speakers. So hopefully those will be coming soon. I have the IQ30s coming soon, the Qualios. And that leads me to say once again, these look like a lot like a mini Munchkin version of the Qualio IQs I reviewed a while back. If these had a wooden cabinet with gloss on them, it would be like a mini Qualio IQ. So these are powerhouse speakers. These are very musical, but very rich, engaging, and immersive. They do a holographic sound stage like nobody's business. The imaging is just fantastic, but they do require a lot of power to be driven. The manufacturer, I will agree with them, you're going to need at least 200 watts of Class AB or Class D power. I think Class AB will bring more beef and energy to these, where Class D, which I did try, my Devulet Astra that I have here, I hooked that up to them, which is a Class D powerhouse of an amp. Now, the Class AB Dazzle had more dynamic impact, more punch, more beef in the mids. The Astra had even top to bottom energy. Nothing was exaggerated. It was more smooth. It was a little more beautiful in the vocal representation and not as matter of fact. Dazzle is going to punch you in the gut and then knock you out over the temple with a fist. The Devulet Astra is going to do this in a gentler way. Maybe slap you across the face and push you in the chest. Both are amazing sounds. Just take your pick. Now, the Astra is a $20,000-$25,000 all-in-one integrated. It's amazing. It's gorgeous. Everything about it is like, it's like if Apple made a high-end audiophile integrated amp, right? But at the end of the day, I feel that my favorite amp with the Vipers is the Vinshine/Kinky Studios Dazzle. It just had the authority, the effortless energy, the effortless drive. The dynamics were insane. Really, really nice. You know, when you go from soft to loud, boom, boom. But yet these speakers remained and retained, I should say, a musicality about them. So nothing was ever etched, surgical, or analytical. Now, I had these playing with some smooth, slow jazz. I tried classical on these. I tried rock, heavy metal with these. Dance music, holy crap. One night I was sitting back listening to that Diana Krall playlist, or Diana Krall song that came in my playlist, and others, Leonard Cohen, you know, all of the traditional audiophile songs were sounding beautiful. And then Debbie came in here and I said, let's make this room into a nightclub. And I jammed that Dazzle with it, not too high, but you know, mid-volume and some EDM on, and it was like a nightclub in here. I put on some flashing lights and we were dancing around. It really did feel like we were in a nightclub. I like to say my beige ones look like buttered popcorn color, and they got the little knobbies, but they're very well made. They're solid, they're hefty, they're not lightweight, they don't feel hollow. When you pull it out of the box, you're like, okay, I definitely got my money's worth. If you want to see more videos like this that feature cool, cutting-edge, unique products in the hi-fi realm, make sure you turn on those notifications and you'll be notified when I post a new video. I thank you all, I love you all, and I will see you in the next one.